Chosen ones, the 7 divine types and their eternal missions. You've felt the weight of being different for as long as you can remember. No matter how much you tried to fit in, something deep inside kept pulling you in another direction. A quieter, holier path. You've endured storms that others couldn't survive. You've faced rejection, betrayal, and silence. But through it all, something unshakable held you together. That something is purpose. That something is calling. You were not made the tea crowd, you were marked for the kingdom. God didn't create you to blend in. He set you apart. Long before you took your first breath, He wrote your name into a divine storyline that spans generations. You are not just a face in the crowd. You are an answer to a cry, a solution wrapped in flesh. A vessel designed for glory. The world may not recognize it, but all of heaven does. You carry something eternal. This message isn't for the comfortable or the casual. It's for the ones who can't sleep because destiny is louder than fear. It's for the ones who feel the stirring of heaven every time they try to walk away. Today we will uncover the 7 types of chosen ones and their divine missions, not just so you can know who they are, but so you can finally recognize who you are. Because once your identity is revealed, your purpose can no longer be denied. Part 1. The Prophet, the voice of God to the people. The prophet does not speak for themselves. They are not guided by personal opinion or popular opinion. They are the mouthpiece of heaven, the vessel through which the voice of the Lord flows like fire. To be a prophet is not to merely predict the future. It is to carry the burden of God's heart. It is to feel what He feels, to see what He sees, and to say what He commands, whether the world wants to hear it or not. Prophets walk a lonely road. The weight they carry is not always visible, but it is always heavy. They are often misunderstood, rejected, and silenced. Not because they are wrong, but because truth is rarely welcome, in places of compromise. Jeremiah wept, because the people would not listen. Elijah fled, because the cost of obedience nearly crushed him. Yet both stood in the power of their calling, because when God puts His word in your mouth, you cannot stay silent. This calling is not glamorous. It is not for applause. It is for obedience. The prophet is called to disrupt, to correct, to awaken. When sin is comfortable, the prophet becomes the storm. When apathy reigns, the prophet ignites a holy fire. Their words are not born from intellect, but from intimacy. They do not speak until they have first listened in the secret place. You might be a prophet if you've always felt burdened by what others ignore, if your spirit aches when truth is twisted, if you feel fire in your bones when injustice reigns. The prophet does not choose the calling chooses them, and once it does, there is no turning back. God told Jeremiah, "Do not say, I am only a youth, for to all to whom I send you, you shall go, and whatever I command you, you shall speak." Jeremiah 1:7. That same God still raises up prophets today, voices in the wilderness, crying out for repentance, truth, and holiness. If this is you, know this. The cost is great, but the reward is eternal. Stand firm. Speak boldly. Heaven backs your voice. Part 2. The Warrior, defender of God's kingdom. The warrior is not defined by the battles they face, but by the spirit in which they fight, called by God to confront darkness and defend the innocent. The warrior is forged in fire. This one does not run from conflict. They run toward it. Not because they crave war, but because they carry justice in their bones. The warrior stands in places others flee. They endure what others avoid. They are protectors, not of their own glory, but of the purposes of heaven. The warrior is both lion and lamb, fierce in battle, yet tender toward the weak. Their strength does not come from human might, but from deep spiritual authority. They don't just fight flesh and blood, they war in the spirit. They know the terrain of prayer, fasting, and spiritual warfare. They put on the full armor of God daily, not as a ritual, but as a necessity. They understand that victory comes not by sword alone, but by obedience, by purity, by unwavering faith in the one who called them. David was a warrior. Before he ever held a sword, he fought lions and bears in secret. No one saw those victories but God. Yet it was those private battles that prepared him to slay Goliath in public. The warrior's training is often hidden, but their impact shakes nations. Joshua led Israel into conquest, not by his own wisdom, but by listening to God's strategy. When warriors move under divine instruction, walls fall, giants fall, strongholds crumble. If you find yourself constantly fighting battles others don't see, if you feel a fire rise up in you every time injustice lifts its head, you might be a warrior. If people often turn to you for strength, for courage, for leadership in crisis, it's because they recognize the mantle on your life, even if they can't name it. But know this, warriors grow weary too. The danger is not always in the battle, but in the exhaustion that follows. Even Elijah, after his greatest confrontation, collapsed under a tree and begged to die. So if you're a warrior, you must also learn to rest in God, to be refilled, rearmed, reanointed. You were not created to burn out. You were created to burn bright. Stand your ground. Keep your sword sharp and your heart pure. The kingdom needs you. Part 3. The intercessor, the burden bearer. The intercessor is one who doesn't just pray. They carry. They feel what others don't feel. They weep when no one else understands why. They go into secret places and cry out not for themselves, but for cities, nations, families, and lost souls. God entrusts them with burdens because he knows they will not drop them. They are not moved by applause or recognition. They are moved by the Spirit of God. The intercessor is the unseen warrior, the hidden fire keeping the altar burning. While others sleep, the intercessor is awake, not because they have insomnia, but because heaven is stirring them. Groans rise up from their spirit. They cry out for mercy when judgment is near. They beg for revival when complacency has settled in. They pray through until breakthrough comes, and they often do it alone. Not because no one cares, but because few are willing to carry what they carry. Moses stood on the mountain and lifted his hands so that Israel could win the battle below. When his hands grew tired, victory slowed. That is the reality of the intercessor. When they pray, things shift. When they stop, darkness gains ground. Their position is critical, even when no one sees it. Esther risked everything to stand in the gap for her people. Jesus, in the garden, interceded until his sweat became blood. This is not a light calling, it is a call to travail. You may be an intercessor if you often feel spiritual weight you can't explain. If people tell you their problems without knowing why. If you wake up with names or places on your heart and can't shake them until you've prayed, you feel deeply. You discern quickly. You're not just emotional, you're spiritually sensitive, and that sensitivity is your gift. But intercessors must guard their hearts. The enemy wants to isolate you, discourage you, and make you believe your prayers don't matter. But they do, more than you know. Your quiet yes in the prayer closet echoes louder in heaven than the loudest shout on a platform. When you pray, chains break. When you stand in the gap, mercy is released. You may never be seen by men, but you are always seen by God. Do not grow weary in well-doing. Stay at the wall. Keep crying out. Keep pushing in. The breakthroughs coming to others are often born through your labor in the Spirit. Heaven moves when you pray. Part 4. The healer, restorer of souls and bodies. The healer walks into a room and broken people start to breathe again. They may not wear a white coat or hold a medical degree, but they carry something greater, an anointing to mend what others cannot. The healer does not just touch the body. They reach into the soul. They carry peace in their presence, comfort in their words, and power in their touch. When others feel hopeless, the healer becomes a vessel of God's hope. This calling comes with a heart that feels deeply and bleeds freely. The healer has often experienced their own seasons of great wounding. They know pain not just from observation, but from survival. and it's through those scars that the oil of healing flows. The healer's hands may tremble at times, but they carry a quiet authority. Whether through prayer, counsel, encouragement, or simply sitting in silence with the suffering, they release restoration wherever they go. Jesus, the great healer, didn't just restore sight to the blind or strength to the lame. He made the lepers feel human again. He touched what others avoided. He loved what others rejected. That same Spirit now lives in those God has called to heal. Whether you lay hands on the sick or simply listen with compassion that disarms pain, you carry His heart. Healing is not always loud. It's often found in stillness, in presence, in faith that refuses to give up on the hurting. If you're a healer, you've probably felt overwhelmed by the needs around you. You may have wept over the pain of others as if it were your own. You might absorb more than you should and struggle with boundaries. You may battle with discouragement when those you help don't change. But make no mistake, your gift is holy. Your empathy is not weakness. It is the tool God uses to touch the wounds of the world. Guard your spirit. You must heal from your own wounds too. Let God pour back into you, or the very compassion you carry will become a burden instead of a blessing. You cannot give what you don't receive. The healer must learn not just to serve, but to rest in the presence of the healer himself. Keep showing up. Keep loving deeply. Keep laying hands and speaking life. Miracles don't always look like parting seas. Sometimes they look like a heart that finally feels seen, or a soul that chooses to live one more day. Heaven knows the value of what you carry. Never underestimate it. Part 5. The seer, one who sees in the Spirit. The seer is not led by what is seen with natural eyes. They are guided by vision, divine insight that pierces through the surface of the world and uncovers what is hidden. God speaks to them in dreams, in images, in whispers that others often overlook. While others walk by sight, the seer walks by revelation. They are not always the loudest voice in the room, but they carry a depth that speaks volumes. The seer sees what others miss, and with that sight comes great responsibility. This calling is not just about seeing the future. It's about seeing God's heart, seeing His plans, seeing His warnings, seeing the traps of the enemy before they spring. The seer is a watchman, stationed on the walls of the spirit realm, alert to what is coming, burdened for what is not yet visible. They see beyond the natural, and that often sets them apart, misunderstood, isolated, even feared. Joseph was a dreamer, but more than that, he was a seer. What began as a vision of sheaves and stars turned into a journey of betrayal, false accusation, and imprisonment. But the vision never left him, and in the end, that same vision brought deliverance to nations. Daniel saw visions of beasts and kingdoms. John saw the throne room of heaven. These men were not mad, they were marked. The world may call them strange, but heaven calls them chosen. If you are a seer, you may struggle with the weight of what you see. You may find yourself wrestling with visions you don't understand, or waking from dreams that feel more real than life. You may speak what you've seen and be met with blank stares, but do not let the silence of others rob you of the clarity God gives. You are not crazy. You are not imagining things. You are tuned to a frequency few are willing to hear. But the seer must remain grounded. Revelation without humility becomes pride. Vision without wisdom leads to confusion. You must stay rooted in the Word, led by the Spirit, and submitted to accountability. Just because you see doesn't mean you speak right away. Timing matters. Discernment matters. Obedience matters even more. Your gift is not for entertainment. It is for alignment. It is to call people back to the truth, to warn, to prepare, to reveal the heart of God. Whether your visions come in dreams, images, sudden knowing, or divine downloads, you were created to be a window through which heaven speaks to earth. Guard your sight, protect your intimacy with God, and never trade your vision for comfort. The world needs what you see. Part 6. The Builder, one who rebuilds broken walls. The builder carries a divine blueprint in their spirit. They see what is broken and don't walk away. They lean in, where others see ruins. The builder sees restoration, where others see disorder. The builder sees potential. They are equipped by God to construct, to organize, to establish systems, ministries, communities, and even individual lives back into divine order. The builder doesn't just dream, they execute. Their hands are steady, their minds are focused, and their hearts are fixed on the long-term vision of God's plan. This type of chosen one is often trusted with leadership, not because they crave control, but because they understand responsibility. They are not in love with position. They are in love with progress. They are problem solvers, planners, workers, sometimes unseen, sometimes overlooked, but always essential. The builder doesn't just speak vision. They bring it to life with faithfulness, discipline, and endurance. Nehemiah was a builder. He didn't ignore the broken walls of Jerusalem. He wept, he fasted, he prayed, and then he acted. He faced opposition, threats, and discouragement. But the work did not stop, because when God gives a builder a mandate, hell itself can't hold it back. Bezalel too was filled with the Spirit of God to construct the tabernacle. His craftsmanship created the space where God's presence would dwell among his people. Builders create environments where heaven can touch earth. If you're a builder, you likely find yourself drawn to fixing things, structures, systems, even people's lives. You notice what's missing and feel compelled to fill the gap. You may be the one others turn to when vision needs to be made practical. You may not always feel spiritual, but your work is spiritual. Every nail, every step, every spreadsheet, every late-night prayer to organize what God has placed in your heart, it matters. But builders must be careful. It's easy to become so focused on the work that you forget the presence. The danger is not in the building, but in building without God. The Tower of Babel was also a great construction project, but it lacked obedience and alignment. Never let success replace surrender. Never let the vision outgrow your relationship with the one who gave it. You are not just making things, you are making room. You are not just organizing, you are preparing the way. The builder's work is sacred. It may not always be flashy, but it is foundational, and without it, the vision crumbles. Keep building, keep believing. Even when others can't see what you see, keep going. Because what you build in obedience, God will bless in power. Part 7. The Forerunner. One sent ahead to prepare the way. The Forerunner doesn't wait for the world to catch up. They move when heaven speaks. This chosen one is always ahead of their time, carrying a divine urgency that sets them apart. While others settle, the Forerunner is stirred. While others delay, the Forerunner prepares. They are sent ahead, not for their own sake, but to pave the way for what God is about to do. They are not the main event. They are the trumpet blast before the arrival of the King. This is not an easy mantle to carry. The Forerunner often walks alone, misunderstood even by those closest to them. Their message is inconvenient. Their timing is disruptive. But their purpose is holy. They are called to shake the sleepers, to clear the path, to confront what's in the way of God's movement. Like John the Baptist crying out in the wilderness, the Forerunner is not afraid to call for repentance, to challenge complacency, to declare that the kingdom is near, whether the people are ready or not. Elijah stood before kings and declared drought. He called fire from heaven and confronted a nation's idolatry. John lived in the desert, dressed in camel's hair, eating wild honey, yet carried more power in his voice than the priests in the temple. These were not ordinary men. They were divine messengers, blazing a trail so others could follow. If you are a forerunner, you've likely felt out of place. You've seen things before others see them. You've felt things shift before the shift happens. You may carry a message that feels too weighty for the room you're in. You may burn with passion while others are lukewarm. And you've probably asked God why you can't just live like everyone else. But you weren't made to blend in. You were made to prepare the way. The forerunner must stay close to God's heart, because their direction doesn't come from culture. It comes from the secret place. They must guard their fire, or the loneliness of the path will try to smother it. They must stay rooted in truth, or the pressure to conform will try to silence their voice. You may not see the fullness of what you're preparing in your lifetime. John prepared the way for Jesus, but he didn't walk with him through the cross and resurrection. Your obedience may unlock doors for generations you'll never meet. But don't let that stop you. Your voice matters. Your message matters. Your mission is divine. Keep going. Keep crying out. Keep preparing the way. What you're building in the wilderness today is making room for the glory that's coming tomorrow. The awakening of the chosen. You were never meant to live an ordinary life. Not when the fingerprints of God are all over your story. Not when heaven whispered your name before the foundations of the earth. Whether you are the prophet who speaks with fire, the warrior who fights with faith, the intercessor who carries burdens in secret, the healer who mends the broken, the seer who sees what others cannot, the builder who restores what's been torn down, or the forerunner who prepares the way, your calling is real, and your mission is holy. Don't let the world's confusion make you question what God has confirmed. Don't let loneliness convince you that you're lost. You're not lost. You're hidden, set apart, processed in private for a purpose that will be revealed in God's perfect time. You are not crazy for feeling things others ignore. You're not weak for carrying a weight others can't see. You are chosen. You may not fit perfectly into one of these 7 types, or maybe you see pieces of yourself in more than one. That's not a flaw, it's confirmation. God is too creative to box your purpose into a single category. What matters is not the label, but the obedience. Will you say yes? Will you carry what He's placed inside of you, even when it's heavy, even when it costs you everything? This world is groaning for the manifestation of the sons and daughters of God. Creation is waiting for you to row, not with pride, but with purpose. Not with ambition, but with surrender. This is your time to shake off every lie, every label, every limitation that's tried to bury your calling. The fire in your bones is not imagination, it's divine assignment, and the time has come to walk in it. Let them talk, let them doubt, let them leave. But don't you dare quit. The same God who called you is the one who will sustain you. And when it's all said and done, it won't be the applause of man that matters. It will be the voice of the Father saying, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Now rise, chosen one. The world is waiting for your obedience.